Welcome back. So now we have another question, that is 3. We have still solving for x. It says 3 to the power of x, then that is multiplied by, open bracket, here we have x minus 5, then close bracket, then less than 0. Right, you are still working with inequalities, so this is just another variation, right? And then this is one of the general trends, right? So if you can take a look, this question has been appearing in most of the past question papers now, that particularly more recently. So just make sure that you understand this question properly. If you have to rewatch the video again, please do so. Right, so in this case we have 3 to the power of x, that is multiplying with x minus 5. Right, so in this case, remember, we have a 3 to the power of x. One thing about 3 to the power of x is that it is always going to be positive. Right, remember, no matter what value of x is, right, you can try this by using negative numbers. If you use negative 1 there, you are going to have 1 over 3. 1 over 3, it's positive. You use negative 2 here, you are going to have 1 over 9. 1 over 9, which is what? Which is positive. You use negative 3, you are going to get 1 over 27, which is still positive, right? So in a way, even though we use 0, remember 3 to the power of 0 again, we get 1, because anything to the power of 0, it's 1. So what is this telling you? It is telling you that the 3 to the power of x part, it is always going to be positive, irregardless of whatever value of x is, as long as the value of x is a real number, right? So in this case, we are going to say that we know that 3 to the power of x, it is always going to be greater than 0, right? For what? For all values of x. In other words, you say for x is an element of real numbers, right? For all values of x that are real numbers, this part here is always going to be positive. So this is forever positive, given that the values of x, they are actually what? Real numbers, right? So in this case, what is it that you can actually do now? You know that this part here is going to be forever positive, right? And then now the question is, now you are multiplying this quantity here and this quantity here, and then you are getting a lesser than 0, an answer that is lesser than 0. When is it that can happen? Remember, you are multiplying two quantities and then you get what? You get a negative. When is it that is going to happen? It's when you multiply a positive and a negative. So when you multiply a positive and a negative. In this case, we know that this part here, or the first part here, it is always going to be positive. We have just shown that, right? So what does that mean about the x minus 5 if we want to get a negative answer? Remember, we want to get a negative answer. So what does this mean? It means that x minus 5, it means that x minus 5 should be negative. How can we show this? We are saying that x minus 5 should be negative, should be lesser than 0, right? So in this case, we are actually going to do what? We are going to solve for x like this. So we are going to transpose the 5 to the right hand side, so that we are going to have x is lesser than positive 5. So what does this mean? It means that when the value of x here is lesser than 5, this part is now going to be negative. It's always going to be negative if the value of x is lesser than 5. So what does that tell you? It means that if we are looking to multiply these two entities and we get a negative, it means that the value of x, it should be lesser than 5. Remember, it is not dependent on this part, but it's dependent on this part because the other part is going to be forever positive. Then one who is actually comfortable with functions, remember, if we were to draw the function of 3 to the power of x, it's like this, right? Let me just draw it properly, right? It's like that, right? And then another thing that is interesting here, it is that it has an asymptote here at y it's equals to 0. right? It has an asymptote at y is equals to 0. And then this is an increasing function. It has an asymptote at y is equals to 0. It is an exponential function, right? And then if we were to look at this function here, it only has positive y values, right? It only has positive y values. So hence why I say that this function here, 3 to the power of x, it is going to be forever positive, right? It's forever positive because it only has what? Positive y value. So hence why we say that this part here is always going to be forever positive. So that's what you can actually use depending on your understanding. If you understand functions this way, then that's how you can actually interpret your answer in this case.